Do you love music? If so, you've likely seen this. Many artists have gone online complaining about their living situations, despite the clear excesses of wealth and fame that seem to follow them. This has led many of us to assume that it is senseless, spoiled whining, greed, a desire for more. However, upon closer inspection, we find that there's much more that meets the eye. Hi, my name is Christian Kick, and I've been an aspiring musician for close to a decade, working with countless artists on their way to getting with independent labels. And today, I've decided to shed a light on the struggle of many signed artists. Many of your favorite artists are struggling by the hands of their labels, living in an endless cycle of debt. This has resulted in a loss of personal ownership of their music, a loss of personal income, and most importantly, a loss of creative output in the public space. To understand this issue, we first need to understand what is a record deal in the first place. A record deal is a written agreement by a label to pay an artist to record music for them. The artist records the music, the label then will take the music and distribute it out to the masses, taking a portion of the sales to pay back that loan. Whatever's left over, the artist will have to pay the rest up. So knowing this, why would an artist want to get signed in the first place? Simple, resources. Labels provide the artist access to a vast amount of legal teams, public relations teams, and that covers their recording fees, allowing the artist to not have to pay out of pocket, which means more money can be put into the product that's being sold. And most importantly, marketing. A record label can take your name, your music out to the most amount of people efficiently. However, due to the change in the music industry as a whole to the current day, labels have now needed to find new ways to start taking money to be able to pay those advances back. They have done this by cutting into other sources. Labels traditionally only took money from royalties, which allowed the artists to pay back whatever portion they couldn't make up from the album sales via tours and merch. However, labels now have introduced what is known as 360 deals, which allows them to take money from the tours and merch as well. This often leaves the artist unable to repay those often expensive advances. As found by Jay Jacobson of Jacobson Law Firm, any income earned from the different revenue streams, i.e. recording, publishing, and touring, can be used to recoup the advance provided by the label to the artist, as opposed to the label solely utilizing publishing revenues to recoup the publishing agreement advance and so on. What this means is that signed artists can no longer pay back their advances via touring anymore. So how do they pay back these advances? Traditionally, artists would be able to pay back those advances via their cut of the royalties from the albums that they sell. However, labels have now found a way to take ownership of that as well. Labels have taken ownership of recorded songs, which has changed how royalties are paid. Labels now require the licensing of master recordings, and which means now the artist can get paid by the label, however the label sees fit. As found by Parks Winder of the University of Texas, a label almost always requires that the musician give the label rights to own and use the original master recordings. In return, the contract stipulates that the artist will receive a royalty rate, although that is approximately as low as 18% of the profits generated from their music. This is only worsened by the fact that now artists have been licensing their name, image, and likeness for marketing purposes to the label, and this has been misused. A famous example, the backup singers Latavia Roberson and LaToya Luckett didn't even know that they were kicked out of Destiny's Child until they saw a music video using their voices with their backup singers lip-syncing over them. The lack of being able to own their music now means that they can't even pay back the loans that means, which has reduced the artist to just becoming a performer. This has only been furthered by how the writing process has changed. Labels have slowly pushed the artist out of the writing process, which now is favoring large teams of writers instead. And it makes sense business-wise. From the label's perspective, if you get the same writers with the same proven track record of success, that means there's going to be little to no financial risk involved. Chris Riva of Tedium.com analyzes that during the 1970s, there was only 1.8 songwriters on average per Hot 100 number one song on the charts. However, by the 2010s, that number has more than doubled to 5.3, increasing upwards to 10 to 15 writers per song today. What this means for us, the consumer, is that the same writers are writing the same songs for all of these artists, which means that we're only getting the same product but with different flavors based on the genre you prefer. This is only worsened by the change in our listening habits. As studies by the National Institute of Health find, short-form content has dominated the entertainment industry, but has caused a permanent damage to our attention spans. As the study finds, short-form media has impaired attentional concentration during the processing interference. This, as a response, has changed how we need to write songs. So songs have now shifted to keep interest of these low attention spans, which has made a strong emphasis on a short, loopable hook that can be repeated for 2 to 3 minutes. This puts a limit on how a song is written and any diversity in thought in that process. At the end of the day, record labels have left artists broke and reduced to just performers rather than a creative force. And this has changed how we have consumed music and in response diluted the quality of art in the public consciousness. As over-commercialization kills the human element of art, so does the culture behind it. So, when you watch the next TikTok of your favorite artists, do not envy the flaunting of their apparent wealth and fame, but rather understand that it is a grand performance, one that masks their misery and hardship. Enjoy your favorite music, but dare to venture into the vast amount of independent artists. Thank you for your time. Good night.